Hi, I'm Daniela Cambone, and welcome back to StansberryInvestor.com. My guest today made major headlines when he came out saying he would convert 100% of his NFL salary into Bitcoin, the first player in history to make that kind of statement. So please welcome to the show, NFL tight end Sean Culkin. Sean, so nice to speak with you. Welcome.
Hey, Danielle, thanks for having me.
Yeah,
Excited.
you became so famous when you came out with that bold statement, 100% of the salary that you're willing to take from the NFL, all in Bitcoin. People
Yeah.
either think you're a hero or absolutely nuts.
Right. I know. In this process, you start to um, just uncover the fine line of what's brilliant and what's crazy, right? And how people perceive it. But it's been a crazy time these last couple of weeks, and it's been really just great to have impact on people that follow crypto on a daily basis.
Yeah, and I just find it fascinating because, like I said, you've become kind of a hero for the cryptocurrency community. And, people think that you're basically going to start a movement here. But I want to learn a little bit more about your path and what led you to Bitcoin and what, made you have this mindset of, this is how I want to get paid.
Yeah,
What
yeah.
brought you to Bitcoin?
It's a good question. I think, there's two parts of that. It's, what led me to have the conviction to put my whole salary in Bitcoin, and then also just kind of some of just who I am and like what my interest in finance and economics. So, I went to University of Missouri, and early on, I majored in finance, and it was the first time where I had a passion outside of football, and I knew that football will end one day, whether it's right when I graduate, a couple years in NFL, or 10. And I knew that it's such a small time in comparison to your whole life, right? So I just fell in love with finance, and I actually got a highly competitive internship at an insurance firm where I was the equity research analyst. So in between workouts, practices, meetings, I was sitting on Bloomberg terminals, sitting on spreadsheets, just geeking out. And I loved the combination. In my eyes, I was gearing myself for a career on Wall Street, if you will, if football didn't work out, at the professional level. And just through that journey, just got exposed to Bitcoin. I remember seeing a couple articles and just reading and fell in love with just the concept and just the non-discretionary components of blockchain and the egalitarian nature and how the Satoshi, remain anonymous. I thought it was very George Washington, and I thought it was something that had the potential to be good. And and also, I think it's important to note that my dad, it was a gold bug, so I was exposed.
Wait a second.
Yeah, yeah. So I was,
Okay.
yeah. So
Okay.
and there's the overlap, right? The investment thesis is they share some
Of course.
what makes Bitcoin and gold attractive. And so I was exposed at a young age, kind of the fallacies of central banking, and just kind of thought in a contrarian
Wow.
view at an early age. So yeah, that's kind of my exposure to just,
Okay, so I love that
yeah,
piece of the
yeah,
puzzle,
it's
and
a
I
lot.
was
Sorry.
not expecting you to say that. So I have a
Yeah.
thousand other questions. So you grew up in this gold bug environment. Obviously, you were educated on the Fed, monetary policy, all that.
hmm
But you didn't choose the path towards gold, or is that a percentage of your asset allocation, or are you
it,
anti-gold? How do
it
you?
was my path is kind of it fluctuated. So it went from oh, I'm understanding gold, I
Yeah.
like gold, to starting to, with my schooling and my internship, being exposed to equities and stocks and real estate, and just seeing the more traditional finance side of things. And then it shifted towards Bitcoin. So it's kind of, I find both. I mean, the more I see tech and this new world in crypto developing, the more my allocations to fixed income, equity, real estate is becoming the hedge in my eyes, instead of Bitcoin being the hedge. I find gold attractive, but I think it underperforms versus Bitcoin, and in something that you discussed, right? I loved your interview with Frank and Michael Saylor. That was
Yes,
really
yeah. I
incredible.
mean, I've covered gold for a very long time. I've been covering Bitcoin for quite a while too. But I think it's interesting. I'm seeing more and more children of gold bugs or silver bugs diverging into Bitcoin. It's like the metals generation has given birth to the Bitcoin
Yeah.
generation. It's very
Yeah.
fascinating.
Yeah.
Were you exposed to silver or any interest in silver?
Not entirely, to be honest.
Yeah.
I knew that it, again, it's kind of all in that same uh,
Yeah.
column. But yeah, mostly it's just gold and then now Bitcoin.
Okay, but to take the position of, hey, I want 100% of my salary in Bitcoin. I mean, again,
Hmm.
bold move, putting money where your mouth is. You're obviously your belief system in the cryptocurrency is strong. What about Bitcoin, really set the light off for you? Like, was there a certain mentor for you? Was it like a Michael Saylor, Max Kaiser, someone you were listening to and you had that, like, I want to know that aha moment for you where you're like, yeah, this is the future for me.
Sure, sure. Well, I remember listening to a podcast with Michael Saylor and Preston. Is it Peach? Preston Peach, I think is his last
Right.
name. And that was a moment where, hold on, like that's very interesting what he just said. Let's one research who Michael Saylor is. Let's see his background, and you can see how he kind of predicted the whole mobile wave and the tech wave that we live in and operate today, and just some of the things and how he viewed capital being destroyed, due to the cost of capital increasing with just the amount of stimulus and the increase in the monetary expansion rate. So I found that very interesting just to do my own research. So yes, like to your point, Michael Saylor was a big part in me kind of just going down this rabbit hole for my own self. And among others, like I think Bitcoin Twitter is a great source of just information and different viewpoints.
And so before we talk like Bitcoin price action and all that, I just would love to get your thoughts on the place of the Fed going forward. Like, I've said in past interviews, I think that the movement behind Bitcoin has a lot to do with a new generation who wants a new system, a new currency, a new, central banking system, perhaps. When you think of the future, what place does the Federal Reserve have for you?
Yeah, so I think for me, why I'm so bullish on Bitcoin too is, two dates. It was, March 2020 when, the economy was in so much need of stimulus, rightfully so to survive, right? And then also when the Democrats took control of the state and the House. So I saw that just with that regime, the stimulus that I think would um, continue to go as planned, right? Where they're continuing to go $120 billion a month. And even when we're seeing signs of economic improvement and stability, you're starting to still see those high stimulus measures. And then you start to consider like interest rates, right? And how low they are. And like, have they lost ammo, right? To prevent another crash. And also how they're, they step in to avoid any type of correction, any type of recession. And that can only go so long in my eyes. And I just see through yield control, yield curve control, and other forms of stimulus measures, just the monetary basis continue to increase at extraordinary rates.
So when you're making, the decision to go all in on Bitcoin, how do you stomach, and I'm sure you've been asked this, but I really would love to get your perspective on this. How do you stomach when you have days where you're having a 20, 25%, 30% correction?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, this may be new to me, being an early Bitcoin investor, but it's not new for Bitcoin. And through my journey, I've developed an iron stomach just through sports, quite honestly, and the ability to detach my emotions, and which is one of the most important traits in being a great investor. And I couldn't imagine selling right now because of short-term volatility when my investment horizon is over a decade, if not longer, right? I plan to never sell Bitcoin. It's generational view for me. So, when I zoom out and look at the macro play, I see huge growth, 200% compound annual growth rate. And yes, people are going to trim and take profits, or you can see the impact that Twitter has caused, right, for the price movement. And like I said, just through my career as a football player, I developed a very, very strong stomach to
Interesting. So
good
it's
things.
prepared you psychologically,
Yes.
psychologically. And if you listen to what Michael Saylor says, he says, anything that's growing at 200% a year is bound to have this type of volatility. So you have to be prepared for it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's also, yeah, you have to be prepared for it. And then also it depends on what's your time preference, right? My conviction is unchanged because of my low time preference. And I think people today especially younger generations, want instant satisfaction, and I'm willing to sacrifice short-term gratification for long-term preservation of my wealth.
So let me ask you this, Sean. You mentioned the debate before between Justra Saylor. Why not do what Frank Justra suggests? Like you want to be in Bitcoin, but why not hedge a bit of it? Why not be not 100% Bitcoin, but hedge your Bitcoin with some gold? Would you be open to that?
Yeah, I would be open to that because I still see gold in the near term being what it's designed to be, right? A store of value in times of uncertainty, an uncorrelated asset. And I see the trajectory of finance and economics. And again, I don't claim to know everything. This is just my opinion, right? My own personal opinion. And I look at my generation, I look at Gen Z, and I see the technological advancement. And I have a hard time thinking gold will again outperform Bitcoin when the properties of Bitcoin, in my opinion, outperform gold in every metric of being a store of value. And gold has been sound money for 5,000 years, right? But 5,000 years in terms of the Earth, right, and like how long we've been here on this planet is small. And innovative ideas, our own, it will continue to innovate. Never bet against technology.
But on that point, Sean, the 5,000 years, the gold bugs, I'm sure your dad would say to you, well, look at, okay, blockchain's been around a long time, but Bitcoin is a junior in high school, and it has not been proven in times of crisis. So what's your answer there?
I mean, my answer, yes, in comparison to gold, it's still short, right? But 12 years is the first asset to grow to $1 trillion asset, a market size, right? In such a little time. I think, has it been tested? I think March showed that it did. It went down with many other things. But if you look at the performance of Bitcoin in the past year compared to other asset classes, it's performed quite well, right? So it's like, for me, in times of uncertainty, now more than ever, I'm wondering, okay, how do I allocate my capital? Where would I put, if I had $1 million, where would I put it and trust it? And I ask people that, like, what asset class do you trust right now? And for me, that's Bitcoin. I don't know if it's buying these high valuations in the equity market. And I know it's not fixed income, which is paying negative real yields. And I see the growth of Bitcoin, and I think it's only beginning. I think the adoption is only going to increase.
I need to ask you this because obviously the corrections we've seen have been tied a lot to, Elon Musk's kind of quasi exit out of Bitcoin, not in terms of Tesla, but him, bringing up the environmental concerns, and China cracking down on regulation. So we're seeing more and more central banks coming out, warning against Bitcoin, or perhaps placing regulations in place that's going to make it harder to buy Bitcoin. So I'd love to get your thoughts on both these major issues affecting the price of Bitcoin.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to the environment and energy use, I don't claim to be an expert in energy consumption, but I do find it odd. Not too long ago in the headlines, we saw Jack and Kathy and Elon all grouped together defending and saying that it actually incentivizes clean energy. And just, I don't know, one person's opinion doesn't change my view on it. I think it's, when it comes to Elon, I have a lot of respect for Elon and the change he's done and is continued to do for the world. But I think in such a short time to put $1.5 billion of, cash into an asset, and just 3 months later switch. And then I think I saw a tweet like within the last month saying this about energy use, and then now it's this. But I think through some of the studies that we're starting to see, in comparison to other traditional markets, and other forms of finance, it's actually quite low. And anything that's like, energy is needed and used, right, to produce goods and services. And I think that it's net positive in what it brings to the world, especially marginalized communities and undeveloped countries that find so much hope in Bitcoin as a safe haven, quite honestly.
Sean, are there other cryptos that you speculate with? Like, are you in Ethereum or Dogecoin or anything else?
Yeah, so I'm very transparent about this. So I wouldn't say I'm a Bitcoin maximalist to the point where I would never want to hear another person's thesis for wanting to invest in another digital asset. But the properties of Bitcoin, through its scarcity and its security, is what find it attractive to me when it comes to long-term preservation of wealth. And yes, like, could you trade and scalp some of these, these altcoins that have so much momentum and make some money? And yes, sure. But for me, when it comes to real money that I'm holding, I'm Bitcoin only. When I first started buying, I bought a couple of Ethereum. I have not bought Ethereum in 2021. And I have no plans to really actually buy anything other than Bitcoin going forward.
Fair enough, Sean. I thank you for your transparency. I guess last question. When you told your family and friends that you wanted your salary in Bitcoin, what was their reaction?
Yeah, at first, like with everyone that I talked to, they saw my level of conviction and my passion. So I think people can respect that and just want to, just proceed with caution, right? Like, just make sure you know what you're doing, do your own research and due diligence, assume and know the risk that you're taking. But, the more conversations I had, they could see where I am with Bitcoin and how I can stomach the volatility. And it really doesn't have an impact on me or my mental health or my ability to perform as a football player. And yeah, so they've been very supportive.
Well, I wish you best of luck with your NFL career. I mean, the future is bright for you, Sean. It's awesome. Congrats on all your success, and fingers crossed on your Bitcoin play.
Hey, Danielle, I appreciate it. Thanks again. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, come back anytime to stansberryinvestor.com. And thank you all for watching. Remember to share us where you watch us. That's it for me today. I'm Daniela Cambone.